warm up, post or pre-game warm up, how to prepare yourself the correct way to be prepared for the game, going into the game. Right now, we're just at the start of the basketball season. We're starting to tell down in the NFL and in collegiate in terms of the college playoffs. Um, I think it's important. I talk about this. You can see them in a lot of my videos about warming up and training, and warm up is such a big thing. And I'm such an advocate for it because as a former athlete, I can't emphasize the benefit I had to mental preparation, physical preparation for the game. It made the game so much more easier for myself. When I coach, I warm up the kids. I warm them up so the game is easy for them as they prepare the game because they're good, they're warmed up, they got a good mental mindset. It's important that not only you warm up, but you have the right warm up in mind and a good foundation. I said in my short, learn from the greats, uh, practice from the greats. What we're talking about right now, I'm bringing up basketball. In my short, I brought up the example of a young kid who was warming up for 20 minutes, just dunking or doing dunk attempts. They missed every last dunk, and I'm not playing on that. They missed every last dunk, and they spent 20 minutes. They had the whole court to themselves. Now I got a little bit more length of time to talk about this, so I'm gonna put a little bit more context that I could in a short because the emphasis, I just wanted to make sure that you understand the warm up and the importance of a good warm up. In basketball is very rhythm dense. It's very rhythm dense, and you know who you are as an athlete. And if you're a shooter, a scorer, a slasher, one of those that just, get buckets by any means necessary, it's important that you warm up the correct way. In some capacity, the warm up has to be internal and then working your way outside, but ultimately getting good clean shots and getting your rhythm, understanding the layout. Even if it's your home gym, you still want to get a good layout, a comfortability of shooting. The greats do it. Steph Curry, one of the greatest shooters of all time, he still has a 30-45 minute warm up that is now one of the most famous warm ups you have seen in modern history in terms of basketball. People know his routine almost better than he does. They're already there watching him just go through his warm up at home games, on away games. The same thing is the same thing. He doesn't change. He's not, and I'm sure I would bet by this time in his career that he may not have to do that warm up as much as he does. He probably could just not have to warm up and come out there and still shoot lights out. He's done it enough to where his body is just muscle memory at this point in time. But in terms of, he does it because it's his routine. It's a good mental relaxation in terms of how he's getting his body, getting his preparations in line. So when I'm seeing these young athletes going into basketball and I'm watching them in these games, because there's some of them that I've coached in the past, or I got friends and family that have their kids playing and stuff. So I want to show them some love and check them out and all that. So, and the local, and I want to support the local community, or, my community is around here, and watching games and being there and seeing these young men compete and all that is really cool to watch, but as a trainer, I can't look at things without a trained eye, without a coach eye, without a former athlete eye, without seeing elite athletes and growing up and watching them and seeing them as they made pro and watching them and how they prepare themselves. I can't unwatch that neither. And when I see good youth athletes squander away that warm up, or omitting or ignoring that as if it's not important, and then they get into the game and they can't buy a bucket, they can't shoot, or they're off, the rhythm is off, it's simply because I can tell them, I can see it. You didn't have a good warm up. When you go out and you have the time to get some shots in, the first thing shouldn't be a long halfway, almost to the half court 3-point shot. And it shouldn't be just tomahawk dunks and throwing them off the backboard dunks and all of that neither. You should be, all right, let me get my rhythm. Let me get a couple of shots. Let me work my way. Let me get a couple of free throws. Let me work my way into some of the areas that I like to work, baseline, mid game, then expand to the three, then expand on that. Because when you get into actual team warm-ups, that's completely different from the warm-up of your own. So I'm gonna put this in football. Football was the same thing. When I was in college, you go out, you have time to warm up on your own. You have time to usually it's about 30, 45 minutes, maybe an hour, depending on, especially if it's a road game or if it's a home game, that could vary. But typically it's between 30 minutes to an hour before you go back in, and then you get ready, and then you start doing your scheduled warm-ups, the special teams, then the positions, and then the team overall. That's a different warm-up in itself. That is just a scheduled routine warm-up. But your individual, you can go out to the field and walk around, hang out a little bit, talk with coaches, check the weather out, things like that. So what I did, like I would follow a lot of the greats that came before me, that I would study. I would go out, check the field out. I would kind of basically run through maybe the first half of the game. I pretty much ran through in my brain. I just got mental, just put a mental compartment in and took pictures and images of where I'm going to be at in certain times of the game. I could be on the 20, we had a really great kicker. And I just kind of went through our scheme, or I went through our script pretty much, in terms of 9 times out of 10, he's going to kick the ball off and it's going to go all the way out to the end zone. It's going to be a touchback. So I would play that in my head. It's a touchback. All right, where am I at on this side of the field? If we're going, north, or we're going south, whatever, which way, depending on what side of the field we're at, I knew where I was going to be at. I knew what coverage was going to be already doing right out the gate until further notice. I knew where I was going to be standing at. So I literally went through that process and backpedaling, and because I was a corner, backpedaling and driving, and if the ball comes my way, if it goes the opposite way, where I'm supposed to run, getting used to the field, getting used to the terrain. So literally, when it was time to warm up, do our team warm up, and then go back into the locker room, and then come out and go through the whole process, I already seen it. So I was already comfortable. Sure enough, 9 times out of 10, kick the ball out in the end zone. I was exactly where I needed to be at. The receiver's there. I'm here. And in my head, I'm like, yeah, this is exactly what I seen. So I'm comfortable, right? In basketball, things are similar to that. It's more in terms of getting your rhythm, because you got to be shooting, you got to be moving, right? So getting your foots in, getting your steps in, getting comfortable with the area, getting comfortable with your shot, that stuff is imperative to where the game becomes easy to you when you become to play in the game, because you already got that mental mindset in. You already got your rhythm in from when you shot. When you're in basketball and you do your team warm up, you have, I want to say, a total between 10, maybe 15 actual full shots, from layups to jump shots. You have maybe, as an individual, you have maybe 10 to 20 shots, attempts, where when you were by yourself, you could shoot as many. You got 30 minutes, you could get maybe 30 shots of, but more rhythm, more controlled. It's to yourself. So when you're doing that, it's just a team. It's just to get you warmed up, get your heart rate moving and all that. But you didn't really take that much time to really put in on that warm up. So that's why I really want to emphasize, in terms of us as coaches, as trainers, is getting our young youth to understand what a warm up is and explain the why behind it. The why is to make the game easy. That's why you want to have a good pregame warm up. That's why you want to you look at Kevin Durant's warm up is one of the greats. Steph is one of the greats. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, the receivers, when they're out running, they're doing routes in football. Look at the pros. When you got Jalen Hurd and Devontae Smith, they're doing the route tree. Peyton Manning back in the day, Marvin Harrison, their warm-up routine was something to behold, especially on the offensive side. When you want to get that rhythm and timing in, they're out there early. Defenses, they're out there early, running, moving, making sure they get acclimated to the game, to the weather, and all of that. It's so important for it to have that good warm-up. That you don't sit around. Most of those guys don't just sit around and, I got 30 minutes. All right, I'm just going to look on phone, or I'm just going to kind of lay around and not do anything. And then in the game comes, you're trying to catch up with everybody else. Your timing can be off. Your steps could be off. You found out that the terrain is a little bit more slick than you thought because you didn't ever really go out there. You just kind of eyeballed it. These things could set you back. And when you're going against top elite talent for talent, some of those things are what can win the game for you, can lose the game for you as an individual and as a team. So the importance of warming up, take it seriously. Be important. I'm showing videos here on some of my newer group that I have right now, and I'm going through warming up, just the basic warm up formula, just the base on how to prepare your body and stuff. And so they're just learning how that is and the importance of that. And I told them, look, you're gonna thank me later. I'm putting this stuff in there now. You're going to thank me later, because then when you go out into these and you go out in terms of high school, collegiate, you'll have your own set of warm-ups and how to prepare yourself and to get ready for a game and get ready for your health. It's important for your health as well, obviously, right? So with that being said, who are you? What is your mission? I appreciate you guys for checking out yet another video. Until then, appreciate you. Peace.